All right, so now we're gonna go for our first operation with the lathe, which is facing or face milling, right? So facing means I wanna make this top of the piece flat, right? Because even though this came from the factory like this, it looks pretty flat, but it's not, right? Until we actually create a finish there. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you exactly what it is, what it means about it not being perfect. All right, so right now, I installed it there. I use the parallel plates that actually make my piece to stick above the vise so I can actually do the facing work there, right? Facing, what do I want to do when I face? I want to remove the least amount of material from the top, right? I'm not actually making into a specific dimension. I just want to make it flat, right? So now we're going to go over how we're going to actually move this piece so I can actually start my cut there, right? So if we look at the machine here, we have a few options. For sure, we have to move our block here up to where my cutting tool is, right? So I can do it in two ways. I can actually come and get my Z lever, and actually I can keep going up, and then it's gonna raise my bed, and subsequently it's gonna raise my vise and my piece up to here. One thing that we can do to save a little bit of time is actually we can lower the quill and then lock it down, right? So when I do this piece is not gonna go up, right? So then sometimes we wanna move it like from one side to the other side, and then this helps, right? We always wanna have this locked, even when we're gonna be working all the way up, we wanna have the quill locked, because if not, it's possible that as I cut, it's gonna actually bounce, right? So I wanna actually have it locked all the time. So I'm gonna choose not to go down, I'm gonna stay all the way up, and I'm gonna lock my quill. So then I'm gonna actually lift my Z, right? So we can see here, this is called the DRO, so it's the digital readout. So we see here, this is the Z position that we're at right now, right? If I wanna zero the Z, I can just hit like a Z equals to 0 here. So now we're gonna see that number is gonna go up because we're going up with the Z, right? So some good arm work. See, if you see the Z going up, there's a little bit more, so I can get there. All right, so this is Z. We have to do a little bit more, but I'm gonna try to position my piece under my cutting tool there. So this hand wheel, actually, it's gonna move my Y or my X, if you can see there. See, I'm moving in that direction, and this hand wheel, now it's gonna move the Y. See? So how do you want to do this? What I want to do is I want to position my cutter kind of like hovering over the edge of my piece, right? See how when I go, I'm hovering just right over that edge, that edge on the back there. So the facing tool and the end mill both can be used for face milling, right? For facing. However, none of those have the capacity of plunging, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually lift, move our Z, move our block up very slowly. So this is gonna cut sideways, right? It's not gonna be a plunge because it's just gonna be just a little bit, right? So right now I'm using my flywheel or facing tool. I already went through and I locked my tool, right? I already secured my piece, just like what you saw in the other videos. I locked my quill, right? Now the next thing to set up is actually my speed, right? So right now we can see here 300 low and let's say 2,800 high. So how do we know which speed we're running at? We would have to come in here and see where my gear is, right? Right now my gear is on high. I can so if I push this in, I can move the gear to neutral and I can put the gear to low, see? But now we wanna run in high, right? Because for facing, what you want is actually 2,000 RPMs here. So we're gonna go and select forward. So our 2,000 RPMs. Now I'm gonna reduce the speed to 2,000. So now we're at 2,800. I'm gonna reduce the speed to 2,000. So when the machine is running, you can see the machine is running, you can actually move the speed selector here. So I'm gonna go low. And you can hear that our speed is actually changing, right? So again, the gear here on the back, this high, neutral, low, you can only change when the machine is not running. And the speed adjustment here, then you can only change when the machine is running, okay? So I'm gonna go forward again. So what we said what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start going up. I'm gonna start going up, right? Very slowly. There's some room there. Until I make a scratch on my piece. All right, which is pretty cool, right? So there's a little scratch there. Let me zoom in for you. There's something interesting that we can talk about, like see how there is a scratch, but the scratch doesn't go all the way on the back? It's because this piece is not, so like the part that was cut now is actually up higher a little bit compared to the bottom part, to the back part. That's because that's the reason why it only cut the front, right? So now what I want to do is, now I can take a full pass. So I'm gonna move the whole piece, see? All the way. All right. So what we want to see is, we want to see the whole top being touched. What we can see here on this end, that the top wasn't touched on this side, right? So what do we want to do? We want to go up a little bit more. So I'm going to go up a little bit more here. Okay, now I'm going to take another pass, right? And then now, I was able to touch my whole top, right? So this is the process of facing, right? We want to make sure this whole piece is actually was touched. So if we face one side and we turn it around and we're going to face the opposite side, we have to make sure our piece is sitting correctly against the parallel plates there, and that the parallel plate is sitting correctly against the vise. Otherwise, it's possible that we're gonna see that the back is gonna cut, but the front's not gonna cut, or vice versa. And actually the reason is actually not that my piece is not flat, but that like my piece as a whole is actually tilted a little bit. So we wanna just make sure we watch for that, right? That happens especially when both sides are already faced and you still put it in the machine, and then when you are gonna face it again to actually adjust the dimension, then you still have this symptom of actually cutting one side and not cutting the other one. Because if you already did face both sides and your piece is good, then you have no problem with actually having it unleveled because you already fixed that part, right? All right, so this is the process of facing. And again, when we face, we remove the least amount of material, right? And then before making this dimension, cutting to my specification, I wanna make sure I face one side, I turn it around, face the opposite side, and then now we can actually bring it to our dimension, okay? All right, thank you, bye.